Okay, so I'm just going to show you some things about this machine, just give you an idea of some of the basics. First off, I'm going to open up for you. As you can see, that's how it will come. It's in the box, sealed box. And then I'll give you a bit of a run through on some of the functions. The instructions. Now this machine was altered for us by the manufacturer, so those instructions are the standard instructions on how to use it as a steam cleaning machine, as far as how to use it for fogging and for how to clean air conditioners. The extra accessories, I'll tell you about those now. Once you open the accessory box, you'll find 5 air conditioning universal remotes. These are just in case you come across somebody who's got an Aircon that doesn't have a remote, they've lost it, or maybe the one they've got has got a faulty remote control. You can either use this just to get your job done, or you can of course sell it to them. Okay, I'm just going to go over all the heads that come with this machine. First off, up the back here, you've got a mold removal head. It's basically a brush with jets on the inside. You can probably see the brush is for getting into crevices and corners and the ceilings and so on. You've got these clamps that you can clamp a cloth around to the other side, and it literally locks on and steam comes through and out through those little jets there. So that is its own head for cleaning off stubborn stains, and particularly from mold. You've got a wet vac head here, which you can use just as a vacuum cleaner head if you want, but it does have the connection for steam. You can see the little holes where the steam comes through, so the brush is scrubbing, and then the things like carpets, and then this steam will come through there. The good thing about that head is it's got all these extra attachments that literally just click into it. You got look like little wiper things there for cleaning windows, for example. This one's got a very flexible version, so you can certainly clean anything with that. And this one's just full-on brush. And they literally just click in to the main head, and away you go. Over this side you've got a smaller version. Again, you can use it as vacuum, or the steam will come through. You can see steam comes through these, and this part here, you can just use it straight on upholstery, for example, or you can attach a few different heads here. This one's got a little wiper type thing on there and the brush, and the steam is coming through this separate rod there, so none of these need to have holes in them. That's just a brush only. That's the one that I used, so you can see a bit of use on that one. That one's just a wiper only. So all of those go on the medium one. These two here are nothing more than vacuum accessories, so that's just a crevice tool for a vacuum, and that's just a little small head for sucking up. Usually you'd use that like on upholstery or something, just to suck off any dirt. This long fella here, that was made for me for using on air conditioners. you've got a crevice tool on the end there, when it's thin and very flexible. It's literally bendable rubber, so you can get in behind the electrics, you can get in up underneath the fan, wherever you need to get in behind, on if you want to suck anything out that might be on an air conditioner. It's a problem. And it's got a little brush head that you can literally just push in over top. I'm trying to do this one-handed, and you could use that if you needed to scrub out some stuff to loosen it up before you suck it out. So that's solely vacuum. Those three are solely vacuum. The other ones are all for wet vacuum or steam. Just talking of steam, these are the main heads which you'll be using for your steam cleaning or fogging as well. The big boy here was made specifically for us for cleaning air conditioners, because the normal head, which is this guy, when you try to get close to an air conditioner, you know, this part can get in the way. It really doesn't have enough reach anyway. It does come with an extension for that one. It just literally screws on, like so, just screws on there and gives you an extension. But I still found it was not good enough to do air conditioners. So this guy was made for us specifically. It's longer, and it's got a rubber coating around it to protect you from touching it, getting hot burns, and also to protect the air conditioner's casing in case you touch it by accident. You don't want to melt anything. So that's what that one's for. This is your fogging attachment. All it does in comparison to that one is it just makes it go more fine mist, like straight out, whereas that one will carry on more concentrated mist. Okay, this fella here is actually a drain cleaner for air conditioners only. So you literally would stick the white hose down the drain of the aircon, and the steam will come through and flush out the drain. If you have any aircon's drains that you want to suck out any stuff, you can use this fella. Right, stick that in the hole instead and put that into any of these heads, into the vacuum section on any of these heads, and you know, you can then suck out any gunk that might be in the drain. This same piece here is used if you ever need to clean out the boiler manually. There's instructions on how to do that. You just put that in and suck it out. But again, the boiler is self-filling, self-cleaning, so it'd be pretty rare you have to do that. But if you do, that's going to come in use for that as well. These little guys, they're very strong metal, two of them, and two strong bristles. Okay, and they go onto either that straight on there or onto the extension. When you want to clean your air cons, sometimes you come across the coil and it might be a bit gunky, and you're having trouble moving stuff. You simply put one of them on, give it a bit of a scrub over while you're steaming it, and that'll loosen it up. Hope that all makes sense, what they're all for. This is the main hose. Now it's very heavy duty, and it's 3 meters long. Right, plenty of hose. The idea is, of course, that you attach to the machine, and then you can just work on the step up on the ladder, and it's still, the machine is still on the ground, because most air conditioners are obviously under the roof line. So even on a step ladder, this will still be attached to the machine. You won't have to get any extensions or anything to work on your aircon. The head just goes on like that, and a little latch just turns around. So that little piece there just flicks around and locks it into place so it won't come off again. And away you go. On the back of this trigger mechanism, you'll see a little button there. That's for when you want to activate the wet vac. So trigger for steam, wet. Turn that on for wet vac to suck up any moisture as you're going along, because you want to clean up the mess as you go. There's also a little red button there in case you're wondering what that is. Just a lock on the trigger so it can't use it. Freeze it up. When you open the main box, there are some other things, accessories that have been put in with the box to save space. Because remember, we had this machine changed to meet our needs, so there are extra accessories that we'd never get with a steam vac normally, a steam cleaner, and therefore they had to fit in the box somewhere. So they're in here with this fella. You got a split system air conditioning bag. This is nothing amazing at all. It's just a piece of very thick plastic with like a rubber stripper on it, elastic band, sorry, that you just sort of, I don't know if you can see there, you just sort of bend it over the top of the aircon and just hang it underneath and trying to cut the actual edge underneath the aircon as you're cleaning it out. There are certainly much better bags out there. I used to sell some, but not anymore because we're going in a different direction. This is what they call electrical lockout kit or tag out kit. If you're going to be working on aircons, sometimes you'll be able to just turn them off at the wall and unplug it, but other times they're hardwired, and what you don't want is you're cleaning with steam and somebody, the owner of the house or whatever, comes along and turns the power back on or tries to activate the aircon or something. So you want to isolate the power whenever you're working on an aircon. So you go out to the power box. There, some of the things in here, there's a little pen that you actually, when you touch a power socket or any power on the front of the aircon, like near the power board, it'll light up and beep and let you know that there's power there. And obviously once you've actually turned the power off, you come back and check again and make sure that you've actually got the right power off, and of course it won't light up or beep. What you do is you go out to the box, you find the circuit breaker, flick it off, and you put this on top of it and screw it into place, and all it does is just stop anyone from actually flicking the circuit breaker. There are other types of switches where you can just put it through a loop and lock it out with a padlock. Of course you've got the keys for that. There's another one that you can just clamp through. If there's a little gap, just clamp it through and tie it off. The ties of course come with it, just your normal little ties. And you've got these do not operate stickers, do not operate. You can hang that off of it using one of those ties. You can hang it off of it just to really make it obvious that you don't want anyone mucking around with it. You can even jot on there your name, what date, whatever. If you're going to be working on, say you turn off a power board and you're working on a whole bunch of aircons in an aged care facility or something, then you could be locking it out for days. Of course aircon's on a different switch to all the other power, so you're only locking out the aircon power, but you might have to be locking that out for days. So you put on there a date and time and so on. Of course you've got a little, one of those whiteboard markers to write on there with. There's another little cool instrument that we include. This little guy is called an anemometer. could be pronounced differently, I don't know. But basically all it's for is when you're cleaning air conditioners, you turn it on and you hold it up against the air conditioner, and you turn the aircon on and it's blowing through, and it will tell you the wind speed of the aircon at the time, and it will also get a little sensor here on the side that registers the temperature. So when you're cleaning the air conditioner, before you start, always turn it on to make sure that it works. And of course that way no one can pretend later that you buggered up their aircon when in fact it wasn't working beforehand, so you need to confirm that it's working. But you also measure it with this and write down what the wind speed and the temperature was before you start. Then when you're finished, you come back and you turn it back on and you use this again, and that'll give you an idea that you've made improvements to their aircon, to their efficiency of the aircon, because the wind speed should be stronger and the temperature should be lower, assuming you're in the cooling setting, or higher if you're in the heating. Okay, but you do it testing on cooling, of course. There are not one but two extension arms. So depending on, again, they just little lever, push it in, lock. So you might have an aircon that's really high up, and of course you're worried that the length of the hose is not quite long enough, which I highly doubt will ever happen, but you never know. What you can do is you put an extension arms on. They're very lightweight, so don't worry about the weight, and they're super strong polypropylene, so they're not going to have any issues with heat. You can see a very long extension, so you can work on anything quite comfortably. It might even be a situation where you forgot the ladder for the day, some reason or other you've got more than one person on the job and the other person's taking your ladder or whatever. As long as you can reach the cover and get the cover off the aircon, then you can just stand back and relax and just clean away with that. Even if you're not cleaning air conditioners and you just want to clean the floor or something, you put a normal vacuum head on there and just stand back and vacuum with that head on there, so that makes it a lot more user friendly. Now, this is not something that would normally come with this machine. What it is a air dryer. I'll show you how you use that in a minute. And that's only for when you're working on air conditioners, so you wouldn't use that for normal steam cleaning. It's solely for cleaning air conditioners. Now this is the machine itself. As you can see, it's got rollers. Moves around very easily. It's only when you fill it up with water in the bottom there, that's for when you want to use the wet vac. Even with water on there, it's under 15 kilos. It's a 13 kilo machine without water, so generally you can actually you can just carry it around if you want, but because of the rollers there, you'll be using that. it only needs a 10 amps. Now, they converted the machine so that it will run on a 10 amp power and still give you maximum steam. So you don't need to have 3-phase power. You don't need a special 15 amp power cord or 15 amp power sockets or anything like that. 10 amps normal household power socket is all you need. So just a quick rundown on what this, how this air dryer works. If you're wondering what this is, it's nothing more than a clamp. It just hooks on the back of your trolley, releases, opens up, and you hook on the hose, and of course close it up. But you can release it quite easily. That's all that's for. What you do is you go to the back of the machine, and there's a little vent cover here that's just got a little screw cap on it. Take that off. I would probably say that if you use the air dryer a lot, just simply put that cap back on there and leave the other one off all the time. If you only use it occasionally, then you can put it back on, of course, if you want to. Then what you do is this part of the hose you pop into there. Make sure it's in. Sorry, I'm trying to do this one-handed. It's reasonably firm. The other end of the hose, it's just got a little open end, and there you can put in any of these little accessories if you want to. That's just an extension, makes it a bit longer. There's a little crevice tool, a little broad brush there, and a smaller brush there. You probably won't use any of those. You might use this, because all you're really doing is going to blow warm air onto the front of the coil of the air conditioner to try and dry it, so you can turn the aircon on a lot sooner than you would if you just left it sitting there. Because that's coming out the back, what it's doing is coming out the exhaust of the vacuum. So all you have to do is turn the vacuum cleaner on, and of course make sure you've got water in the bottom whenever you use the vacuum cleaner, and you can run it on probably somewhere in the middle setting like P3. You wouldn't want it, you know, unless you've got earmuffs on P5, because it's very loud, but just enough to run it so the warm air is flowing through the hose, and you can just sort of blow dry off the front of the coil itself. When you're finished, just pop that out, put the cover back on if you want. There's a little section inside here that is nothing more than an adapter to make this fit. If that ever accidentally comes out when you pull out the other piece, don't panic, you haven't broken anything. Just pop it back in. It just sits in there quite snug. So away you go. That's what the air dryer is about. Okay, so when you look at the front of this machine, you'll see several controls here. The one here on the left, on-off button, will turn the steamer on. When you turn that on, it'll take 6 minutes to warm up for the very first time. So when you're warming up for the very first time of the day, it'll warm up, take 6 minutes to get there. But then of course, if you're moving from room to room, every time you turn it back on, it'll warm up very quickly because you've already gone through the initial boiling process. The one on the right is for optional accessories. The only one I know of is the iron, apparently you can get to plug into the machine, and that provides power to the iron. So it doesn't really get used. Although if you ever have to clean out the boiler manually, you do need to press both of those at the same time to go into that mode. The book will tell you how to do it, but it's not often you'll have to do that because the boiler is automatic cleaning anyway. The little button in the middle that shows a picture of soap, that's for detergent. That's to turn on the detergent feature on the machine. So on the top here you'll see you've got a water filling spot, and at the back you have a detergent filling spot. So if you need to use detergent, you would turn that button on. If you're going to be using this machine to do fogging, that's the same button you would use, and instead of putting detergent in there, you just put disinfectant instead. It's very important that you're aware that when you're using disinfectants and detergents in this machine, is that the going through a compressed pump and steam heating it up on the way through, it does get very concentrated. So make sure you dilute what you're using first by at least half. Otherwise you'll just find that you get soap coming through. It's almost, but just too much of the detergent. The other ones here, you see there's a fan. That's basically turning on the wet vac, and then you can increase or decrease the speed of the wet vac accordingly. I'll give you a demonstration of that soon. The machine will operate independently of the wet vac, so you can just use it as a steam machine without the wet vac, or you can just use it as a wet vac without the steam machine, so you don't actually have to turn on the steam at all in order to use the wet vac. You can go straight into a room, hit that button there, choose the speed of the wet vac you want, and suck away. When you actually want to turn the wet vac on and off, that's done by a button on the back of your handle. Yeah, on the back here. So that's your trigger for steam. If you're not using it for steam, that's your button for a wet vac. You can use them both at once if you wanted to. Say you were cleaning an aircon and you wanted to suck up the mess as you went. But overall, you'd normally be using them separately. The very first time you get the machine ready for the day, again, before you turn it on to use it for steam cleaning, you need to put water in the boiler and of course in the water tank. The water tank and the detergent tank will hold up to 5 litres each. Boiler takes about 2 litres. That's only for the very first time of the day. When you go to undo this knob, it's got child safety. Keeps turning and turning unless you push down and turn, like child safety stuff does, just to prevent you from accidentally opening it while it's under pressure. So you only do it the very first time for the day. Right throughout the rest of the day when you're using the machine, it'll automatically refill from what you put in here will go through on its way out. It's just that very first time. Okay, this is not a refill thing at all. It's nothing more than something to hang your power cord on. And this is meant to be how much steam you're allowed to come through the machine. You can increase or decrease the amount that comes through. It doesn't affect the temperature, just the amount of steam. I've got it set on the middle, and I recommend you basically just leave it at that. On the front, we'll show you what the temperature is of the steam that's going to be coming out. It can vary quite between 140 and 160, but yeah, really, whatever purpose you're using it for, you may decrease or increase the steam accordingly if you feel it's too much coming through. But generally, leave it as it is and use it as it is, and you'll be fine. To fill up these water tank, simply pull the lid straight off and give it a little twist if it's a bit difficult, and then just use a funnel to fill it up. The book tells you there's a special filling bottle, but I haven't got one. I've never came with one. But all you need is a funnel. If you overfill it, it'll spill around here, and there's no problem because the machine itself is waterproof, but you'd have to wipe it off the floor or whatever. But as you're filling it up, if you go too far, you'll hear a trickle as the overflow, it gets to an overflow point inside, and it just it starts going down into the water tank down the bottom. So you hear a little trickle as it goes in the water tank. Oh, I filled it up too much. It can hold up to 5 litres. But I've got a little extra attachment put onto it where you can connect a hose if you want and put it onto, say, a 20-litre drum that might be sitting on your trolley above, so that you don't actually have to keep filling it up. it just sucks down as it's on demand. And because that's a sealed connection between the two, it doesn't keep overfilling, it just fills on demand. On the back here for your detergent or your disinfectant, same story, use a funnel or you connect a hose to a 20 litre drum of disinfectant. You can put just water in here. If you were cleaning air conditioners, for example, you can use detergent to loosen up any gunk that might be on the front of the coil and you want to try and blow it through if you want. Or you can just use water only in there, and that's often enough anyway. To the extra bit of water mixed in with the steam is enough to loosen up the gunk and push it through. So yeah, only use detergent or if you need it, and of course disinfectant if you do any fogging. Don't forget, dilute any disinfectant that you put through this. Okay. To put on the front hose, it's actually easier than it looks and very, very secure. So I'll just quickly disconnect it. You'll see the brass outlet for the steam, the electrics to run the trigger, and of course your vacuum. Even if you don't pay attention to that, you can only put it in one way, so if you've got it wrong you can just flick it over and point it in the other. But the right way has got this little groove here on the top, so you can just look for that groove and save time trying to figure out which way it goes and put it straight in. Sorry, I'm doing this one-handed. Just push that in, and that little groove is there for a reason. Underneath the top here is a little piece that locks into that like so and holds it in place. As an extra precaution, you've got this locking mechanism at the bottom that turns around, and it all holds in really firm. Commercial grade hosing, that part's where the steam goes through, that's where the vet goes through, and it's all made of very strong rubberized. So you can literally drag the machine around using the hose without any problem at all. I've turned the machine off, that's what's got the little 3 dots, but it's got power to it still. Even while all I've done is turn off the steam feature. For as long as there's power to it, I can still run the wet vac. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add some water and then run the wet vac for you. To add water, you really only have to lift up these levers on both sides. Very straightforward. And then the whole thing will come out. Oh, let me just take the hose off. Don't actually need that on at the moment. It's the whole thing off. And the base is sitting there waiting for me to add water. It only takes a couple of litres of water for the wet vac to work. You'll actually see a marker on the front that says minimum maximum. Just make sure it's over the minimum. I like to bring it up to that little dotted line there. And you're good to go. Now, as I said before, the wet vac will run independently of the steam machine, so even though I've literally got the steam turned off, because when you turn the steam on, it's that button and you'll see that little light saying that the steam is ready, and that's just saying the power's on. You see there's no lights on. The only lights you've got is power to the main unit. But you can use the vac. You can see it working away there. If you increase the speed, when you get up to 5 it gets quite loud. It's very powerful, so you probably want to put on some earmuffs or something, but here we go. again. Just on that, you can turn it on and off from the back of the trigger. Again, that's without the steam being even turned on. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick demonstration of the fogging and comparing it with just using the normal steam. First, get a normal steam head. What you do is you put disinfectant into the back tank, and you choose on the front. You'll see that little button that looks like a bar of soap that turns on the detergent tank. When you press that button, you can press it 4 times. P1 is pump level 1, P2, P3 and P4. I don't recommend you go flat out on P4. What happens is it basically pumps 4 times a second instead of 1 time a second sort of scenario. So when you actually punching steam through, it's also feeding some of the disinfectant through at the same time, and the pump is what's feeding that through. So on P1, when you go psh, 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 pushing it through. P4, if you're going up that P4, what you're doing is you're using a lot of your disinfectant, and you're basically concentrating how much is coming out. So you've got too much stuff coming out all at once, and you can end up wetting the area rather than fogging the area. So just use P1 as you're pumping out for disinfectant. Now, I'm just going to punch that on. P1. And your bucket is your friend. Before you ever start steam cleaning or fogging, always have a bucket handy, so when you first hit the button, the first dribble of water that might come out, it could come out with a little dribble of even a stream of disinfectant when you first hit it on. You want that to go in the bucket, not in the room. You'll very quickly, it'll switch over to the fog or to the steam, depending on what you're using it for, and then you can just move around without any problem. But always have your bucket, always, for your very first time. So you can see it's got a very broad spray, just using the normal steam spray head. The fog head, however, does a lot more fine mist in broader area. It's very similar distance that it can reach, but maybe slightly less because it's not so condensed, it's more dispersed. So that's the one I recommend for fogging. Other one used for steam cleaning. Okay, it was a little bit naughty of me when I was demonstrating the fogging and the steaming. Whenever you're using the steam machine, always have gloves on because you could burn yourself otherwise. Some protective glasses are a good idea. If you're doing air conditioning cleaning, definitely some protective glasses for that, because you might get an over spray bouncing off the coil and you don't want any of those bits of gunk getting in your eyes. And of course a mask if you're doing fogging, definitely. And probably even if you're doing aircon cleaning, because sometimes the stuff, gunk that's in there that you're cleaning out can be microorganisms and germs and stuff. So might be an idea to use that whenever you're doing any of that aircon cleaning as well. Just a quick read on some of the features in the specs area. Okay, you've got a 5-meter power cord. The boiler is made of stainless steel. It's a 2-litre boiler. It's an automatic recharge system in the boiler, but it can also be done manually if you want. It tells you how. 3000 watt steam, 1200 watt on the vacuum, and it's an 8 PA as far as steam pressure is concerned, which is about the highest you can get on a professional steam cleaner, 8 PA. And it takes 6 minutes to heat up the very first time. And of course the tank capacity is at 5 litres for both of the two. Okay. You'll also find on one of the boxes this little gadget here. It's nothing more than a little holder, rubber wrapping around that you actually pop a torch into, so that you can light up if you want to while you're cleaning an air conditioner. It just, tights on with a little bolt thing away. If you're left-handed or right-handed, we'll decide on what side that you clamp it to the handle, so it's away from your fingers when you're working. Up to you if you want to use it or not. It just sort of moves in whatever direction you want to point the torch. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that when the machine runs out of water, you will get a little symbol come on the front of it that says H2O, just to let you know you've run out of water and it's time to refill. And it will also just stop working. So if you find the machine just stops working at random, don't panic. It's just telling you, have a look and you'll see the H2O button. It means you're out of water.